Hello once again, everybody, and thank you for joining me in the Bettor's Box. It's BangTheBook.com's MLB betting podcast for Thursday, May 23rd. I'm your host, Adam Burke. This and every edition of the Bettor's Box presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. Monday, Thursday format here with the Bettor's Box. That will not change next week with the Memorial Day holiday. We'll still do Monday, Thursday for you here with the best MLB betting podcast in the business. We will not have a Monday mailbag, though, on Memorial Day. Want to make sure I get the show done, get it out to you in a timely fashion because we've got a lot of day games coming up here on Monday. So there will not be a Monday mailbag. It's a fully loaded card. I think there's 13 or 14 games on the card. So a lot of writing for the article. Want to get the show up as quickly as possible for you. So no Monday mailbag here this week. We'll return with that the following week for that first Monday of June. But you can still reach out via email, adam@bangthebook.com, to get on the list for the show notes. My MLB picks and tips piece updated for today over at bangthebook.com. We'll have coverage for the rest of the Eastern Conference Finals and the NBA playoffs, and also the NBA Finals from our talented cast of writers. Parker Michaels will have a Stanley Cup Finals preview for you with the St. Louis Blues against the Boston Bruins sometime here, probably over the weekend. Game 1 coming up on Monday, and he'll be doing his daily picks article throughout the Stanley Cup Finals. We've got soccer, golf, NASCAR, UFC, and Indy 500 preview as well. Lots of stuff going on over at bangthebook.com. Make sure you're on the lookout this weekend for Big Ten Watto's preview of the French Open at Roland Garros. That's coming up next week on the tennis side of things. So lots of great stuff going on. We're still very, very busy over at bangthebook.com. All right, so the traditional format here for the Thursday edition of the show, we'll start with a look beyond the box score. Then I'll go down the lines, give you my pick for Thursday night's action, and then preview 5 series coming up here for this weekend. So we go ahead and start with a look beyond the box score. We start with the Indians getting swept by the Oakland Athletics, and this is just outright a train wreck right now for the Cleveland Indians. We saw Carlos Carrasco with a velocity drop in the first game of this series. He's had bad command throughout the year. Righties with 17 extra base hits off Carrasco in 122 plate appearances. Last year, righties only had 29 extra base hits in 387 plate appearances. So they're on pace for about 50 off of him this year. 33 extra base hits for righties in 2017 in 432 plate appearances. 31 in 326 plate appearances in 2016. So Carrasco's not even getting righties out at the clip that he used to. The velocity's been kind of up and down. The command really hasn't been there most of the year, so that's a big concern. Trevor Bauer, a lot of hard contact for him. A home run issue. Took him 123 pitches to get through 6 innings. He's already had 61 plate appearances this year with a full count, 23 walks, 16 strikeouts. So Bauer's not being efficient. He's not commanding in the zone, giving up a lot of hard contact. Hitters aren't chasing that assortment of pitches that he has. They're kind of waiting and seeking out something that gets hung or seeking out a fastball. So it's been a bad look for Bauer here of late as well. And then Yefry Rodriguez, yesterday we were against him with Oakland. Saw his regression come to the forefront again. Second straight start that's happened. He's a fade guy for me at this point in time. It's a bad look for the Indians. And, offensively still, one of their key cogs, José Ramírez, down in the dumps this season over his last 321 plate appearances, which was back to the start of September last year. 188 average, 305 on base, 306 slugging percentage, a 203 batting average on balls in play. Some contact quality issues for him. Not hitting for power at the same rate, obviously. Only a 14.3% strikeout rate as well. But the problem here is that the Indians, as they're constructed, they can't afford José Ramírez to continue being this bad. They can't afford any drop-off from the rotation. They had both of those things here in this series. They wind up getting swept. Francisco Lindor's coming around, but Carlos Santana's gradually coming back to earth a little bit, especially in the batted ball department. They just don't have enough guys contributing right now, and it's been a very difficult look for them, and the roster management has been a mess. This thing could very well get worse before it gets better. I know they've been a second-half team under Terry Francona throughout his tenure, but this looks like one of those Indians teams that maybe wins, 78, 79 games. The Twins run away with the Central Division. Things could change. I mean, Mike Clevenger will be back in early June or probably mid-June or so. Corey Kluber will be back at some point down the line, but that's still not going to fix their offensive problems. So to get swept by an A's team that's been as inconsistent as Oakland has been this year, a very, very bad look for the Cleveland Indians. Speaking of bad looks, the Seattle Mariners get swept by the Texas Rangers. Mariners now 10-25 over their last 35 games. They started 13-2. They're now 23-27. The offense is in the tank. They've got the worst defense in baseball, and now they're striking out a lot as well. 31 strikeouts in these 3 games against Texas pitching. That was Mike Minor and Lance Lynn with 11 strikeouts each. And then the bullpen day, I believe Minor may have had 12 strikeouts in his start. And then the bullpen day opener, Jesse Chavez, then Adrian Sampson, Ariel Jurado. The Rangers just threw a lot of pitching at the Mariners in this series. And with the exception of the late innings on Monday, the Rangers starters were very, very good, and bulk reliever Adrian Sampson, very, very good. And in some respects, it speaks to how good Mike Minor and Lance Lynn have been this season, but it also speaks to just how bad this Mariners offense has become. They'll still hit really bad pitching. If they run into the Orioles or some substandard relievers, something like that, they'll still hit those guys. They can still be an over consideration, but their offense has really regressed in a big way. Their rotation is not good. The bullpen's not good. The team defense is atrocious. A lot of Mariners overs still in play here as we go throughout the season. A lot of team total overs against the Mariners as well. The Rangers hit into 5 double plays in that final game last night. Still won 2-1. Still able to get by. The revolving door in the bullpen is very scary for Texas, but they're able to out-hit a lot of their mistakes, in particular at home, where guys like Asdrubal Cabrera have some big home road splits. So a good look for the Rangers here, but the market did fade them a little bit throughout this series to back the Mariners. The Mariners, again, 10-25 in their last 35. They're probably not that bad. Rangers probably not as good as they've been playing. So we'll have to watch these lines here and see if the market thinks that there's some value on Seattle. I think that could very well be the case. But we'll see what happens here this weekend and beyond. The Padres sweep the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I think that we're seeing those signs of the Arizona offensive regression. 274 BABIP over the last 14 days. They're 16th in weighted on base average over the last 2 weeks. 16 hits in those 3 games against the Padres. They only drew 3 walks. None of them were against the San Diego starters. This is the problem, and I've talked about this before with other teams around the league. If you don't walk, it's very hard to get through those offensive slumps. The Diamondbacks were an offense that was overachieving. They hit a ton of ground balls. They were having a very high success rate on high-velocity contact. They were having a very high success rate in the batting average and balls in play department. Well, that's starting to regress a little bit for them now. Whether it's just, simple variance, whether they're playing better defensive infields, I don't really know what the case is. But their offensive profile was pretty unsustainable as far as I was concerned. Now we're seeing that here where they are falling off the pace a little bit, and they're not able to generate enough run-scoring opportunities because they don't draw those walks. Now, that being said, the Padres still have their offensive woes as well. They were shut out by Luke Weaver for the first 5 innings in the first game of this series. Then Franmil Reyes hit a 2-run homer in the 6th. They were shut out by Zach Greinke for the first 5 innings as well. They did knock around Merrill Kelly, but this is an angle I've been talking about a lot here with the Padres this season. They do not hit right-handed starters that have good off-speed pitches or breaking balls. When you look at this Padres team, and again, as I've talked about throughout the year, they're very right-handed heavy. On fastballs against right-handed pitchers, these are all fastballs. So 4-seam, 2-seam, sinker, cutter. Against right-handed pitchers, 276 batting average, that ranks 12th in Major League Baseball. 350 weighted on base average, that ranks 16th. Now, when you put them up against right-handed off-speed pitches, split finger, changeup, forkball, and screwball, as defined by Baseball Savant for off-speed pitches, a 167 batting average that ranks 29th. A 222 weighted on base average, that ranks 28th. Now, when you put them up against right-handed breaking balls, sliders, curveballs, knuckle curves, knuckleballs, and the ephus, which is a pitch that's rarely designated out there, a 169 batting average, that ranks 29th, and a 215 weighted on base average, that ranks 30th. So the Padres are average or slightly above on right-handed fastballs. They are among the worst teams in baseball against right-handed off-speed pitches and breaking balls. So anytime they're in a matchup against one of those guys for the first five, you look first five under, you look at the opposing team for the first five. Again, 167 batting average on off-speed, which includes split fingers and changeups. They're 29th there. 222 WOBA is 28th. Against breaking balls, sliders, and curveballs, 169 batting average ranks 29th. 215 WOBA ranks 30th. Luke Weaver has that with his changeup curveball arsenal. Zach Greinke has that with his changeup curveball arsenal. Merrill Kelly doesn't. So it's a very simple formula here in Padres games. When they face righties that have a legitimate breaking ball, we saw this with Jordan Lyles last week, they can't hit those guys. When they face righties that throw a lot of fastballs, and they will see some of those here on this upcoming road trip, that's when you want to look to back the Padres. So again, this matchup-dependent analysis here can be a very successful angle for you. And with the Padres, it's very, very well defined so far this season. The Reds and Brewers split a quick two-gamer up at Miller Park. I am a believer in Gio Gonzalez. He gave up 3 runs in the first inning, kind of struggled to find it a little bit, threw 4 shutout innings after that to keep his team in the game. I was on the Brewers in that one. Christian Yelich didn't play, which was a big bummer. Obviously, with that bet, saw a line move as a result. But I am a believer in Gio Gonzalez and what the Brewers are doing with him, how they've deepened his changeup and his curveball, given him a little bit more success with that. I think the market won't be as quick to believe in him as I am, so we could see some value backing Gio Gonzalez in the near future here. I'm really upset with myself because I've talked about Luis Castillo, and I've bet against Luis Castillo, looking for some of his regression. Also with Zach Davies, one of the biggest regression candidates in Major League Baseball. Both of those guys struggled in yesterday's game. Combined line for Castillo and Davies, 5 2/3, 11 hits, 10 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. Missed an easy over in that game. And that's one of the problems and one of the hardships with regression analysis handicapping is that it's coming, but you just don't know when. And that's something that's been really at the forefront for me so far this season with the really bad start to the picks and tips pieces that I know it's coming. I don't know when, and I'll talk myself off of plays and it'll happen. I'll make plays and it won't happen. It's been a very difficult thing for me to try and pinpoint here so far this season. And again, it's just one of the things that comes with the territory. When you talk about regression analysis handicapping, the expectation of guys regressing positively or negatively towards the league average or towards some of their own individual advanced metrics. Of course, it happened yesterday. Of course, I wasn't on the over, but we should have more opportunities going forward with both Castillo and Davies specifically. One other quick note from this Reds and Brewers series. I got to say, man, I think anytime Corbin Burnes is coming into the game, you probably want to live bet the over. Gave up 2 more runs on 1 hit, walked a couple, struck out 3, following Zach Davies, in that game for the Brewers yesterday. He's just a mess this season. And, I don't know what the Brewers are going to do with him developmentally, if they're going to send him down to AAA, because it's pretty clear that he's just not a major league pitcher at this point in time. So I mentioned last week that, it's probably time to get rid of the exit velocity update because we're seeing a lot of teams now into that range, plus or minus 30 points in batting average, plus or minus 40 points in weighted on base average. So there's really not a whole lot of value or equity in continuing to update exit velocity metrics in that same manner. Instead, let's do something different here today, focusing still on those batted balls of 95 plus miles per hour, because again, average around 525, weighted on base average around 665, in that type of range. So high velocity contact leads to a lot of success offensively. So let's use that premise here with batted balls of 95 plus miles per hour and look at some interesting developments here with teams throughout the course of the season so far. Let's look at the top 10 in number of batted balls of 95 plus miles per hour in play. The Red Sox are first at 546. Now remember, the Red Sox have been one of those teams that has lagged behind in terms of batting average and weighted on base average on batted balls of 95 plus miles per hour. And I've told you repeatedly that I expect the Red Sox to regress positively on the offensive side, and especially with high velocity contact. They've made a ton of it this season and haven't had the expected results. So offensively, the Red Sox, I still believe, have a long way to go in terms of reaching their true talent level. And you can see that here by the fact that they've got the most batted balls of 95 plus miles per hour in all of Major League Baseball this season. The Twins are second at 537. Oakland third, 517. Astros and Braves tied for fourth with 505. Yankees 504, they're sixth. Brewers are seventh at 495. Dodgers eighth, 491. Rangers ninth, 485. And the Tampa Bay Rays 10th at 477. So those 10 teams, none of them are surprises. You make a lot of high velocity contact, you're going to have a good offense. I would say those teams, probably the 10 best offensive teams in Major League Baseball here so far this season. And why is that? Because they make a lot of high velocity contact. I'm not reinventing the wheel here by any means. Red Sox, Twins, A's, Astros, Braves, Yankees, Brewers, Dodgers, Rangers, Rays. Top 10 in number of batted balls of 95 plus miles per hour in play. Well, actually, that includes home runs as well. I don't want to confuse anybody between batting average on balls in play and the fact that home runs don't count for that. This is number of 95 plus batted balls overall. So I just want to clarify that here real quickly. The bottom of that list, the Reds, dead last at 369. When you look at the Reds and how bad their batting average on balls in play is, it's because they don't make a lot of high velocity contact. So this should make a lot of sense to you. Marlins 406, that's 29th. Giants 418, Royals 420, Orioles 421, Blue Jays 424, Mariners 427. So the Mariners in the bottom 10 in high velocity contact, but have been one of the highest in batting average and weighted on base average on batted balls of 95 plus over the course of the season. Not a big surprise to see some regression for them in that area. Indians 428, Diamondbacks 431, Rockies 432. So keep this in mind as you're betting totals or team totals. The more high velocity contact, the better a team's chances of scoring a lot of runs. So again, the top 10, Red Sox, Twins, A's, Astros, Braves, Yankees, Brewers, Dodgers, Rangers, Rays. The bottom 10 in order, Reds, Marlins, Giants, Royals, Orioles, Blue Jays, Mariners, Indians, Diamondbacks, Rockies. The Diamondbacks, of course, an outlier there, having a pretty good offensive season overall, not making a lot of high velocity contact. This is why I've pinpointed them as a regression team here for this season. Now let's look specifically at high velocity contact on different pitch types. The highest number of 95 plus batted balls on fastballs, 4-seam, 2-seam, sinker, cutter. The Red Sox, number 1 at 366. The Phillies, number 2, 345. Dodgers, 343. Twins, also 343. A's, 339. The Cardinals, 320. Astros, 317. The Angels, 310, or 316, excuse me. And the Brewers, Padres, and Yankees, all with 310. So there are 4 teams listed here that are in the top 10 on batted balls of 95 plus miles per hour on fastballs, but not overall this season. The Phillies, Cardinals, Angels, and Padres. So these are teams that hit fastballs well and struggle with breaking balls and off-speed pitches. The Phillies, again, second on number of batted balls of 95 plus on fastballs with 345. They're 29th on breaking balls with 86, and breaking balls includes sliders and curveballs. The Dodgers, 343 balls of 95 plus miles per hour on fastballs. That ranks third. They're 26th on breaking balls with 89. Again, includes sliders and curveballs. The Cardinals, 320 batted balls of 95 plus on fastballs. That ranks sixth, but they're 22nd on breaking balls with 93. So the Phillies, Dodgers, and Cardinals, when they face teams that have pitchers that throw a lot of fastballs, they're in very good shape. When they see a lot of sliders and curveballs, that's when they struggle quite a bit. So some good angles here, I think, in terms of looking at teams that make a lot of hard contact on fastballs, struggle with breaking balls. This was a thing for the Phillies last year as well. They did very well on high-velocity pitches, very poorly on low-velocity pitches, because they were a good fastball-hitting team and a bad off-speed and breaking ball team. It's the same thing here again this year for the Phillies. If you throw a lot of fastballs, they will hit you. If you throw a lot of sliders, curves, and changeups, they're going to struggle a lot more. So that's a good betting angle for the Phillies. Dodgers, same thing. If you want to look to fade some big Dodgers prices, play some unders with them. Don't do it against guys that throw a lot of fastballs. Do it against guys that throw a lot of breaking balls. Cardinals, same thing. Lots of high-velocity contact on fastballs. They're not a good breaking ball lineup. So those three teams specifically we can key in on here, Phillies, Dodgers, and Cardinals, when they face high fastball pitchers, and by high fastball I mean a high usage of fastballs, doesn't matter if it's four-seam, two-seam, sinker, or cutter. They will hit the hard stuff. They will have more problems with the slow stuff. So that's a good betting angle for those three teams. Again, exit velocity is no guarantee of success, but the likelihood of success increases the harder you hit the ball. How about the White Sox here? They are third in number of 95-plus batted balls on breaking balls with 132. So the White Sox are hitting sliders and curveballs pretty well relative to the other teams around the league. They're first in batted balls of 95-plus on off-speed. Again, split fingers, changeups, forkballs, and screwballs. So the White Sox are actually a good team hitting breaking balls, which is interesting and very surprising, to say the least. The Yankees, they're doing a very good job of hitting breaking balls as well. 152 batted balls of 95-plus miles per hour on the breaking balls. Again, that includes sliders and curveballs. 10th in 95-plus batted balls on fastballs. 6th overall. So for the Yankees, unlike the Phillies, Dodgers, and Cardinals, pitch usage doesn't matter as much. They'll hit fastballs, they'll hit sliders and curveballs as well. The Phillies, Dodgers, and Cardinals will hit fastballs, not hit the breaking balls. So you want to look for some matchup-based angles here, and I'll throw out the top 10 in terms of pitch usage for four-seam fastballs, changeups, sliders, and curveballs here. Keep some of these names in mind when they go up against some of these teams. So, for example, the top 10 in four-seam fastball usage per Pitch Info Solutions: Tyler Glasnow, Jose Urena, Tyler Mahle, Chris Paddock, Max Fried. I believe that's Pablo Lopez. Could be Jorge Lopez. I believe it's Pablo Lopez, though, for the Marlins. Jacob deGrom, Zach Wheeler, Trevor Williams, Michael Pineda. Guys that will struggle against lineups that hit fastballs very well. So, for example, Chris Paddock, when he sees the Dodgers again, could be a tough spot for him unless he goes really heavy with the changeup. He's got a very, very good changeup. The Dodgers don't hit changeups as well, so you want to watch his pitch usage for matchups such as that. The top changeup guys here: Trevor Richards, Luis Castillo, Chris Paddock once again, Kyle Hendricks, Zach Davies, Marco Gonzalez, Luke Weaver, Mike Minor, Kenta Maeda, Hyun-Jin Ryu. When these guys face these lineups that don't hit breaking balls very well, those are guys you may want to look to back. Or against teams that hit fastballs very well, they don't throw a lot of fastballs. So those are the top changeup guys for you to consider. The top slider usage guys: Jake Junis, Chris Sale, Masahiro Tanaka, Patrick Corbin, Robbie Ray, Marcus Stroman, Matt Boyd, Matt Strahm, Zach Eflin, Brad Keller. So Stroman, for example, here, he's, sixth in slider usage? That's up quite a bit from last season, but he's a sinker slider guy. So you look at his matchup coming up this weekend against the San Diego Padres, and you say, okay, will the Padres hit the sinker like they have throughout the season, or will they be shut down by the slider? That's the question that you have in that particular matchup. Patrick Corbin throwing a ton of sliders. Teams that don't do well against sliders, the Philadelphia Phillies. They'll hit fastballs. They struggle with sliders and curveballs. So Patrick Corbin, probably a good matchup against the Phillies. Those are the types of things you can use to your advantage here to look at some of these matchup-specific things based on pitch types. Finally, the top curveball guys here: Adam Wainwright, Domingo Germán, Charlie Morton, Aaron Nola, Jose Barrios, Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell, Steven Strasburg, Jorge Lopez, and then Trent Thornton, the top curveball guys. Well, Trent Thornton this weekend faces the Padres. Padres can't hit right-handed curveballs. Does Thornton go, maybe 40 or 45% usage with that curveball? I would certainly hope so. Maybe I'll look to play the first 5 under there, or play the Toronto. Well, I won't play Toronto first 5 because they're facing Joey Lucchesi, but maybe that's a first 5 under angle there. Thornton, good curveball, high spin rate, fastball with a high spin rate, but the Padres are hitting fastballs here so far. Lucchesi against Toronto, I don't see them having much success against him. So, again, some of these matchup-dependent situations, and maybe this is something I do need to focus on more because of what I mentioned earlier with regression analysis handicapping and just the inherent uncertainty of, when those things are going to actually come to the forefront. So, a little bit of a spin here on the exit velocity stuff. Again, probably your best bet, Adam at bangthebook.com, to get the notes for the show. All right, let's take a look down the line. Let's talk about some line moves here. Dating back to Tuesday, we saw some Germán Marquez money on the Rockies at PNC Park against Chris Archer and the Pirates. That line opened in the pick'em range, went up, came back down. Lots of late buybacks still out there in the marketplace. A lot of arbitrage going on in the baseball betting world. So that fade up Gio Gonzalez on Tuesday, as I think more about it, a lot of that has to do with the fact that Christian Yelich wasn't in the lineup for the Brewers. That's probably why that line did move. But also, I don't think there will be a lot of supporters for Gio Gonzalez out there in the marketplace, given the last 2 years that he's had. He was a big-time regression candidate. Then all that regression hit. I actually like him. I'm kind of a believer. And again, he's throwing a lot of curveball changeup stuff. So if you find lineups that struggle with curveballs, struggle with off-speed and breaking balls, then Gio Gonzalez is going to be a very good fit against those types of teams. So I probably will be trying to dig into that a lot more here as we go forward and try to turn this thing around for this season. Somebody come in against Trevor Bauer and the Indians. That was Chris Bassett and the A's there. Bassett did not pitch well. Bauer didn't pitch all that well either, but the A's did come away with that victory. So a pretty big fade of Lance Lynn against the Mariners and Tommy Malone. I don't really get it. And in fact, I'm buying stock in Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn is having a pretty decent season here, but he's got reverse platoon splits, which is the exception. It's far from the norm for him. Lance Lynn is a guy throughout his career that has absolutely dominated right-handed batters. This year, righties are hitting him better than lefties. And I think that's just some sample size noise and variance early on in the season here. Now, I don't know if his gains against lefties are going to stick around, but I do expect him to get better against righties. So I think Lance Lynn is actually a buy candidate right now. He was one on Tuesday for me. We cashed a winner there with that. But the reverse platoon splits, again, the exception, not the norm, should get better against righties as this season goes along. Wednesday was a fairly quiet day for line moves, not a whole lot of significance. We saw some Max Scherzer money early against the Mets and Jacob deGrom. An ERA, FIP, and XFIP move there on Scherzer. Also, the Mets with a bunch of lineup injuries now. And as I mentioned, a heavy line move against the Mets here today with Steven Strasburg on the mound. No Robinson Cano, no Brandon Nimmo. They're just really banged up. It's a strange situation right now for the Mets overall. Money on Max Fried on Wednesday. That's like clockwork. He's been steamed in just about all of his starts here of late. Another Rangers fade on Wednesday. I think the market feels like the Rangers are a little bit overpriced and the Mariners are a little bit underpriced because of how they've been pitching here so far this season. Also, there are no believers out there in Adrian Sampson. So when Adrian Sampson starts or is announced as the bulk reliever, we will see money coming in against the Rangers in those games. More Garrett Cole steam. It didn't work out. Ivan Nova and the White Sox beating Garrett Cole in that one, but Garrett Cole taking money start after start after start. Saw some money come in against Rich Hill and the Dodgers. That was Ryan Stanek, Yanni Chirinos, the bulk reliever for the Rays, and that one absolutely brutal beat on the under. It was a 1-1 game going into the bottom of the 7th. Rays score 7 runs, hit 2 3-run homers. Game ends 8-1. We had under 8.5 in the article. Absolutely brutal beat for us there in that one. On Wednesday, we also saw a very big move on the Twins and Martin Perez. That game wound up getting rained out. We got it in the article yesterday at -111. Today, that line with no pitching change out in Anaheim opened Martin Perez -137. So that line moved 26 cents from where we got it yesterday. Lost some line value there. Didn't play the Twins today, but very frustrating to lose out on that line value yesterday. As I mentioned, very heavy Strasburg money today against the Mets. We saw this with the Starling Marte injury as well. The modeling crowd has a big impact with position player injuries. A lot of times the starting pitchers, are such a big factor into the handicap, but when there are injuries to the lineups, and in particular multiple injuries, those lines have been moving pretty significantly with that modeling crowd weighing in. That is the case here today with that Nationals versus Mets game. Seeing a big fade of John Lester once again. My fingers are crossed on that one. I've got a fade of Lester out there for the first 5 with the Phillies. Rays money hitting the board as well. And it'll probably be canceled because Ryan Yarbrough listed as the starter for tonight. Ryan Yarbrough, usually the bulk reliever. Hunter Wood will probably open. I think Ryan Yarbrough should just outright start tonight because the Indians cannot hit lefties. You turn their switch hitters around to generally their weaker sides, the right side of the plate. I hope Yarbrough starts. I took this game in the article. Even if he doesn't, and this line is reopened with an opener in the -125, -130 range, the Rays are my pick for tonight. Adam Plutko sucks. The Indians suck right now. They're a complete mess. I think the Rays will have a very good game plan here. Should be able to have some success. So we'll take the Rays tonight, whether it's Yarbrough, whether it's an opener. Shouldn't affect the line too much. Should be Rays -125, -128, -130, somewhere in there. The Rays are my pick here for today's show. Speaking of the Rays and Indians, let's go ahead and preview that series here for this weekend. Again, Ryan Yarbrough probably not starting tonight, probably the bulk reliever. Would expect Hunter Wood to be the opener. Ryan Stanek has never been the opener in back-to-back games, so I don't think it happens here tonight. But Adam Plutko goes for the Indians. Blake Snell goes tomorrow for the Rays, getting pushed back a day because the Rays play 47 games in 48 days going into the All-Star break. So watch for some fatigue from them as we get into the month of June and then on into July. But Blake Snell goes tomorrow against Shane Bieber. Great pitching matchup. Bieber's a regression candidate, though. Big WOBA to ex-WOBA discrepancy. Has allowed some hard contact this year. Has pitched around it. There will be a significant move on Tampa Bay before this game. So grab Blake Snell early. Grab Blake Snell on the overnights. Then if you want to play back on the Indians, you can. Or if you want to just let that closing line value ride, you can. But there will be Blake Snell money, as there is every time out, and then some people piggybacking to fade that Shane Bieber regression in that WOBA versus ex-WOBA department. Charlie Morton, Carlos Carrasco on Saturday. Ryan Stanek will likely be the opener on Sunday with Yanni Chirinos, the bulk reliever. Trevor Bauer goes for the Indians in that one. Bauer in a major funk. Things could get worse for the Indians here before they get better, as I mentioned at the top of the show. And it could be the case here this weekend as well. Padres and the Blue Jays. Padres go out to Canada to play some interleague play. Joey Lucchesi, Trent Thornton on Friday. Again, first 5 under a consideration for me. Thornton with that heavy curveball usage, high spin rates, a guy that should be able to have success, I think, against this Padres lineup. Lucchesi should be able to have success against the Blue Jays as well, who just aren't a very good lineup here this season. Cal Quantrill, Edwin Jackson Saturday. Chris Paddock, Marcus Stroman on Sunday. Padres get to add an extra hitter to the lineup, get to optimize that team defense, playing some low-scoring games anyway. They have bullpen advantages. Saturday, we could see a little bit of a higher scoring affair, I think, but Padres series price, anything reasonable, I think, is worth taking here. Good matchup on Sunday. What's interesting here is that, Paddock's a regression candidate on balls in play. The Padres get a sinker-heavy righty in Marcus Stroman. basically all sinker slider from him. Can the Padres hit the slider? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Could be a game, though, where Stroman gets that margin for error increase via the strikeout. So I think Sunday could be another under candidate there. Even though Paddock is a regression candidate on balls in play, the Blue Jays just don't impress me offensively. They don't make a lot of hard contact. And the Padres with a tough matchup against a tough righty as well. A righty with some platoon splits traditionally throughout the course of his career. Sunday may be an under consideration for us in that Padres-Blue Jays game. Red Sox-Astros rematch at Minute Maid Park this weekend. I won't be too invested here, but you can't pass up talking about a series like this. Chris Sale, Wade Miley on Friday, David Price, Brad Peacock on Saturday. Brad Peacock's looked really good of late, by the way. Eduardo Rodriguez, Justin Verlander on Sunday. The right-handed heavy Astros getting 3 lefties at home here in this series. Again, I don't think I'll be too invested, but obviously we'll see what these prices look like. The Orioles and the Rockies. The Orioles go to Coors Field, allowing an historic number of home runs. They're on pace to give up over 300 home runs, I think it was. Some sort of absurd number. John Means and Jeff Hoffman in the first game on Friday. Andrew Kashner, a big ex-Woba regression candidate, and Kyle Freeland on Saturday. David Hess, Herman Marquez on Sunday. That will be the biggest favorite roll of date for the Rockies this season. Could we see a Rockies team total of 7 or 7.5 on Sunday? I think we very well could. David Hess is probably the worst full-time starter in baseball. One of the highest Wobas, one of the highest ex-Wobas. Do we get a total of 13 on Saturday for that Kashner and Freeland game? We could. We've had 4 totals of 13 since 2015. All 4 went over. All 4 at Coors Field. 2 of them last year, but again, obviously a total of 13. No sample size of trends will be significant enough there, but I think it's a big possibility on Saturday, especially if the weather cooperates and it starts to warm up in Denver where they had snow on the field 2 days ago. But this Orioles pitching staff going out to Colorado is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. This will be a very interesting series to watch from a betting standpoint. And it goes without saying, and you're going to pay through the nose for it, but if you're playing daily fantasy, you have to stack Rockies. At least Saturday and Sunday to be sure. Maybe John Means gets by on Friday, but you've got to stack Rockies Saturday and Sunday. Finally, one more series to take a look at here. The Braves and the Cardinals. Mike Foltynewicz, Miles Mikolas on Friday. Foltynewicz against another good lineup, but a right-handed heavy lineup in the St. Louis Cardinals. Mike Soroka, Dakota Hudson on Saturday. Julio Teheran, Jack Flaherty on Sunday Night Baseball. Both teams are off on Monday for the Memorial Day holiday, so no situational angles coming out of Sunday Night Baseball. The Bettor's Box will not be off on Monday. We will have one of those, but lots of contact coming in this series. Soroka, sinker-heavy guy with some regression signs. Dakota Hudson, a lot of base runners. Saturday and over could definitely be in play. Sunday, Jack Flaherty just can't seem to put it all together for one reason or another. Teheran obviously going to be dependent on the weather. Any sort of wind blowing out, we could see a high-scoring game on Sunday Night Baseball as well. But could be some runs here in this series with a lot of contact expected given these pitching matchups. So, like I said, the Bettor's Box will be on Monday. No Monday mailbag, though. Want to get the article done, get the show out. Not sure what my plans are for Monday as of yet, but we'll have a show. Just no Monday mailbag for that. That'll do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And remember that you'll never strike out when you're in the Bettor's Box.